Hi, it's T with Teaquilts, and today is Saturday, August 8th, 2020, and we are here. We're going to do some cutting with the pineapple block, but I came in early so that I could just wait for people to come into the chat room. We're actually doing how to cut the pineapple pieces live, and I am going to start at 9 p.m. sharp. So if you're watching this as an upload, just go ahead and fast forward about 5 to 6 minutes, and then you'll be at the start of the actual cutting. So we're gonna get a little situated here, trying to make sure you can see. This is the machine. Let me see if I can tilt down. It might fall. Just a minute. I can't tilt down any further. Basically, it's just gonna be cutting here, so I don't think it's gonna be a big deal. Whoops. The fan is blowing my pieces. Let me cut it down one notch. Trying to get all this situated before we go actual live with the demonstration. See if that helps a little. I don't know. So I'll just go ahead and see who's in the chat room, and then try not to bypass 9 p.m. as our official start time. So, got a lot of comments in here starting from 7:35. Pat Roberson. Elaine Doucette's here saying hello all. She says, I won't make it tonight unless I wake up towards the end. And I do understand. And I'm sweating because I've been running around trying to, even though I had my pieces cut, I had to like rearrange this whole area right here. So that's what I'm kind of working with. So Betty Harris says, hi quilting friends, hope everyone is well. Vivian Cavey is saying hi T and everyone. Patricia Carluccio says, not sure my stuff posted. I don't know what she's talking about as far as posting. Robin Boyd says, good evening T and everyone. Pat also says, anyway, hi everyone, hope all is well. I got like a shadow over here. Trying to figure out why that's happening, kind of like a haze. And that's weird. I've never had that before, so let me see if maybe moving the light, but then I don't want to put the card in front. Ugh, weird. It still didn't go away. So we just may as well move this back. I don't know why it's kind of hazy here today. It's kind of weird. All my lights are working up there, so Patricia's saying, hope to stay awake. I am in North Carolina, which means that they're an hour ahead of us in Central Time Zone. It's, so I can understand it being a little difficult. The Saturday one is set up for people more on the West Coast. So, as far as time, Quilt Gals here says, hi to everyone from Maryland. Still no sewing getting done. I have spent all day mowing the yard and in the garden picking tomatoes. Well, that's good. She's got tomato, squash, green peppers, cucumbers, and pico de gallo. That's what she's making. That sounds really good. Laverne Farrer says, finally have time to watch. Hello. I hope she's still here. Patricia says she's been working on her sewing room. Oiled 6 different sewing machines and wiped them all down now to try to organize the room. Haha. So, let's see. We only got a couple more minutes before we need to go live, trying to keep track of time. Ellen says, hello T and quilting friends. I praise God for T every day. Thank you, Ellen. You're so nice. Patricia says, yes, T is amazing and love to watch her now that I have time. Yes, by viewing Campbell's Creations. Thank you for allowing me to say this. She just put up a video where she's working on some postage stamp where she's sewing 4 strips together and then cross-cutting and sewing those pieces together, which is pretty cool. And she's saying that she can't wait to see the children and I win first ribbon for a quilt. That's pretty cool. Let's see. June Hansen says, hi, T and everyone. Quilting for the Soul. Sarah says, hello, T and everyone. I hope you all are having a blessed day. Denise Daniels also says hello. We've got maybe a couple more seconds. I got 8:59. Sheila Willis is here. Cherise. Julie Werner. Cheryl Clute. Vicki Lemire. Gramps. C-Rex. Teresa Louise. I Quilt 2 has a channel. Diane 57. Mary. Regina Connor. Pretty pineapple quilt behind you. Thank you so much. And Sin Forrest is here. Robin Boyd. Sandra Weston. Pamela Tabor. Kevin the Quilter is here. So it does help a little bit. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Let me just plug this phone in, because it has not been on the charger all day. It's at 20%. So I was asked last Saturday if I would come on and show you how I actually cut. What I cannot find is on a video, my very first pineapple video, when I came to you on the very first Saturday. We were working on this pineapple quilt back here, and I talked about the AccuQuilt die. And I can't find the actual instructions that came with this die, but they do have very detailed directions on this die. And it's showing you how to cut a traditional pineapple block, more like this red one down here at the bottom. So you can also go on AccuQuilt's website and print off free pattern designs that they give you with the that are online free for anybody. You don't even have to necessarily have purchased the product. I know why it's darker, because I normally have my sewing machine light up here. That's what it is. See how much difference that sewing machine light is? Yeah, so I am just going to talk about the AccuQuilt die. So a lot of you all were wanting to know how to use this particular die and how to use it efficiently. And I like to cut my pieces down, because if you put a piece on here all the way across, you can see all the different levels. If you just look at my bottom lines for straight of grain, if I cut one big piece to put on here, I'm going to waste a whole lot of fabric. And so you're already wasting fabric when you're die cutting, so I don't want to increase the actual amount that I'm wasting. So first things first, let's talk about what number this die is. It's gold die number 55485, and it's for a 10-inch finished pineapple quilt. Just want to get the numbers there for people that are not English speaking. Okay. And what I have done to my die, when I get most of my dies, when I've been using AccuQuilt for a long time, and when they first came out, the die was just this gray color. There was no black to let you know where you were going to be cutting your pieces. And up under, in between the black and the gray is where your blades are. We didn't know where they were. We used to have to mark that so we knew where our blades were. In addition to that, I always mark a 1/4 inch away from those blades. And that lets me know where I want to place my actual fabric. Okay. So I do that for each one of these sections. So I got to start over here. When I got to the A piece, I measured this with my ruler and found out that it's just a 2.5 inch square. So instead of cutting pieces that were bigger, I just used one of my, I have multiple 2.5 inch square die. So that's what I actually use to cut mine. What you could use is one of your shape cut rulers or one of your regular sewing rulers, and just cut as many 2.5 inch squares as you need. Why? Because it would be quicker than cutting pieces bigger and then having to put them on here to just cut it into a square. Okay, so you don't want to cut. They'll tell you in the instructions to cut a 3-inch square. Why cut a 3-inch square? If you've already got to cut a 3-inch square, why not go ahead and cut it to size and go ahead and cut a 2.5-inch square? And now I'm going to go out of order just because the H pieces are next. When I get to my H pieces, I actually cut a piece that's 3 3/4, and then I use this line here to line my pieces up and cut my half square triangles. Now, H is the last pieces that you add on the block, but that's just how they've got the design board set up, so we'll just talk about it in that manner. Next part, we have what I call your center blades. They don't call them anything, but I just call them my center blades here. And then over here is the section where you're going to have your diagonal blades. And so let me explain what I mean by that. So when you're cutting your pieces, what I call your center blades is when your square is flat here. This is your center blades right here. And then your diagonal blades is when your block is on point, and then your blades are going through this way. Okay, so that's what I mean by center and diagonal. And I marked that for me because as I'm laying pieces on and doing different designs than what AccuQuilt pattern has for me, I know exactly where my pieces are going to go. So I know if I'm doing something that's color coordinated, I want an orange going north and south, and I want something else going east and west, and then different colors going diagonally. I already know where to put those particular colors on my die blades. Now behind me is more of your traditional style. That's why I hung this quilt up here, where we've got in our north and south, we've got our background fabric, and that's how you traditionally see pineapple blocks. And I'm doing something that's a little bit different. So I am cutting just a tad different. I've cut my A and my H piece just like I've already told you. And then when I get to my center blades, which is what I just wanted to describe why I marked this the center blade. Then I cut a piece that's 3 3/4 by 7 1/2 inches here. That will take the whole place of this area here, cutting all 4 of these pieces at one time. Then the last section over here for the diagonal blades, I cut a piece 9 inches by 3 3/4 inches to cut these 4 blades. And do note that you've got like some duplicate letters, like you see E and F over here, and you also got E and F over here. And that's basically just saying that they're the exact same shape, but one's going on your north and south, east and west is what I call it, your center blades. And then over here, the E and F is going on your diagonal blades. So it's just, I marked that and let you all know that when you purchase the pattern, just because if you didn't want to, like, if you wanted to cut all of your E's and F's at the same time, I was letting you know that that piece is exactly the same when you get to the diagonal blade. Okay, so one other thing before we start cutting. AccuQuilt will recommend that you cut with the size mat to your die board. So they're recommending that you have this particular mat to go with your die board. But I'm actually cutting from scraps, which you all know that I'm a true scrap quilter. So I am actually using true scraps. So I'm cutting pieces of all different shapes and sizes. I may run out of a particular size that I'm cutting, and I may not have my entire board filled. So therefore, I feel like it's a waste for me to run this long piece through. It's going to cut on my mat regardless of whether I'm cutting any fabric or not. So why waste my mat and utilize my mat life? What I will sometimes do is that I will also get a smaller mat. So if I'm only cutting A and H pieces, I will put this on my mat. And I'm just putting this here just so you can see this, and do know that it's going to cut back here where the mat starts. So what I like to do, if I'm only cutting E and H, then this is all that I'm running through. I mean A and H. If this is all I'm cutting is A&H, then this is how much of my mat that I'm actually running through. So I'm also trying to save my actual mat life as well. They do last a pretty long time. I have to say that AccuQuilt, for their Go and their Studio systems, they have very good mats. For other systems like my Big Shots, my Gemini, those mats, I run through those things so fast. They really do a great job making sure that we have a mat that can last for a very long time. So I have to give them that. The other thing I like to say about this board is that I don't find that I have to clean out my intersections too often. I have cut this quilt and I've cut over 45 blocks at least on the current block that I just showed you, and I haven't had to dig into these intersections to clear out any of the little thread dog ears in these sections where the die meets. If you're familiar with AccuQuilt and you're cutting 2.5-inch squares on a multiples board, you know you've got to go in there and clean stuff out all the time. So I haven't had to do any of that with this, and I even cut paper pattern templates on here with cardstock paper. So I haven't had any issues with that. And I see some of the comments rolling up on the screen. I'm just going to ignore that until the end because I'm using this as a demo for teaching. And so I don't want to add in a whole lot of comments from the chat box. So you all bear with me in the chat area. Okay, so now the next thing I do, because I'm using scraps, I tend to cut them into approximate shape sizes. Remember I told you what sizes I like to place on here? So if I got this section here and I want to cut, I want a piece that's 9 by 3 3/4, then I will cut approximate pieces. If I have a piece that's like 9.5 inches, I am not going to cut that 1/2 inch off just to make it 9 inches. I'm going to go ahead and leave that extra 1/2 inch on because I'm cutting approximate shape sizes. They don't have to be exact. The only reason I'm cutting is because I'm trying to get as many pieces out of my fabric as I can. I can't get another cut out of an extra 1/2 inch, so it doesn't really matter to me. Plus the fact that I'm utilizing scrap. So if I'm wasting a lot of fabric, which die cutting does waste a lot of fabric, but it actually saves me more time in the actual cutting, especially when you're cutting oddball size shapes. Okay, so I'm not really worried about fabric waste because all this fabric that I've been using for all of my pineapple quilts have come out of scrap bags. Stuff either people have given to me, my strings, or whatever. And then some of my pieces, let me get my iron pieces just a minute. I had a triangle ruler laying on it to keep them from not being blown in the wind. But I've got a lot of pieces here, and I'm going to try not to have them all fall off this board. But what I do when I'm cutting is these are my 7.5 inch pieces here. And then this is my 7.5 where I have no duplicates. And then these are my duplicate pieces. So I'll start cutting this pile first. And then sometimes I'll get to pieces that are they're not 3 3/4 inches wide, which is what I told you I'm looking for. But they're bigger than 1.5 inch, which is the finished cut size of our strips for the pineapple. So long as they're bigger than 1.5, I'll go ahead and put those on too. So I'm going to show you true cutting from scraps, how to utilize this die. So first we're going to start where we're covering the entire sections that I talked about. And then I'm going to show you how I use these other smaller pieces, even having some half square triangles that are not actual squares. These squares here are actually for my half square triangles, but if I find a piece that's cut at a weird angle and I can make a half square triangle out of it, I also use those pieces too. And then I've got these black strips here because the type of style that I'm making, one particular section of my quilt top is cut with all black pieces. So this is my accent piece here. So we're going to go ahead and start cutting. And we're going to start putting these on the board. So I have my, can you see? Yeah, you can see from here. I know you can't see the entire cut. I'm using the Go Big to cut today. Go Big Electric. And I'm just going to start putting pieces on here. Start pulling my piles over. That's my A. No, we're not cutting any A's. So I've already cut a lot of A's because I told you I already rotary cut those, and those are also in my accent piece. So I'm not going to be cutting any A's today. The A is what goes into the center of your pineapple quilt, this red square here. A lot of people tend to put something, they either fussy cut or use the same color or something in the center. If you're making a completely scrappy one, then people would also make it scrappy. So let's talk about how many pieces can you cut on the go. This is Teajuana's video. This is not sponsored by AccuQuilt, okay? I guess I got to throw that in there as well, because they say you can cut 6 pieces of fabric. And basically that's what I was doing initially. And then I had like 2 extra pieces left one time. And I thought, well, it would be nice if I could just go ahead and cut these 2 extra pieces. Well, they tended to cut the 8 pieces pretty easy. So I've been laying up 8 pieces on my board. So let me get 8 pieces. I'm using my 3 1/4 by 9. I think that's 5. This one right here is number 6. And so I'm just going to put 8. And I really think that you can do 9, sometimes 10. Okay? But we're going to start with 8 to put through here. I think it's because of how they've got the blades set in here, and the fact that they're not crossing each other like they would on some of your other boards. So I'm going to also now put on my 7 by 3 3/4, and then I'm going to try to hold this up so that you can see what I have here. 3. So I'm just stacking up 8 pieces, even though AccuQuilt Go says only to cut 6, okay? Keep that in mind. And now I'm putting on my 3 3/4 inch squares over the H. Okay, now we're gonna hope that this don't move too bad when I pick this up. And I got sinus issue, guys, so bear with me on that as well. So I told you all that we're not gonna cut any A's because I've already cut all of my A's rotary cut because it's just a square. So I don't even waste my time just cutting one square. If I like to cut things that are more difficult to cut with the die. Otherwise, I use my multiple die when I'm cutting my A's. It's more efficient use of my time. So because I have most of this die filled, I am going to go ahead and use my long mat. And all I'm going to do is just cover up partially on the A. See, it fell out. So I have to put it back in. So therefore, I'm not cutting into my entire mat as I'm cutting. And so just my center section fell out. I'm just going to place that right back. Put this on, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut this. Let me cut this on. And then we'll come back and show you what I do next. Now, I find that the Go Big cuts slower than if I'm turning it on my studio cutter. But the fact that I'm not having to do anything is fine as well, okay? So it is a little slower than if you were cranking it through yourself, I feel. So when I get this off, I like to just slide my mat off. I go ahead and flip my mat so the next time I'm ready to use it, it's ready for me to place on top of my fabrics. And then this is what it looks like when I slide my mat off. Sometimes all the pieces are 100% in place. Sometimes they move. It doesn't really matter. And then I go ahead, these are my H pieces, my half square triangles. I remove the outer edges. This is going to be scrap. I'm just going to place it here for now. So it is some waste. I'm not going to kid you and say that die cutting is not waste, but there is no other way. I don't know how you can cut this any faster than cutting 16 half square triangles just by running it through. But that's not all. So I got a stack back here. I'm just going to put them on the board in stacks, because I'm trying to keep my duplicates separate. So gotta do that. And then I'm going to go ahead and take off my 7.5 inch sections, which is the diagonals. Again, we have waste. Like I said, I've cut approximate. I haven't cut exact. And so I can now put these into my stacks. And they have all the little notches and things already cut out. And I'm not even sure if you can see that on camera, where it's got all the little notches along that edge cut out. So when you put it on the block, it actually lines everything up for you. So there is no doubt where your piece should go. Okay. Now we're getting into this center section here. And I'm going to go ahead and peel this one off, but we need to have a chat about this center section. Again, the scrap, you're going to have a lot. You can just get over that part. I do need these C's. I need C, E, and F. Now, because this is my G spot here, I'm cutting, actually all of my pieces in this G position are going to be black. So these are just bonus pieces that I'm just cutting whenever I cut this into the full shape size here to cut. These are just going to be bonus pieces that I'm cutting for a future quilt. I'm okay with that because I keep pre-cut pieces for my die cutting. I have a little storage unit over here that I put my extra pieces in. So I'm okay with that because I'm going to be doing a series of pineapple quilts. I'm actually having fun making the pineapple quilts. And so I don't have a problem with that. But with my particular pattern that I'm using, I don't need G's cut from scraps. I need G's cut from my black pieces. So then I go ahead and just put these into my stacks. And then let me just show you my stack board. Hoping this one really doesn't have an avalanche. But as I'm cutting my pieces, I'm just putting them into position on this board, and you can barely see some of the light ones here. Like this is a stack here as well. And I'm just stacking them in position. My half square triangles, because I'm not using the duplicates right now, because I'm getting 2 with every cut, I'm just putting one back over to the side over there. So I first use the ones that are just one single cut for right now. Now let me see if you all got any comments. I know we're not through cutting yet, but let me see if you've got some things you need me to answer just in case. I see some of you all are saying that you prefer to cut. You know, when people start saying that things are expensive, it's all relative to where you want to spend your money. Everybody has a budget, and everybody can buy and do what they want. I prefer to die cut anytime that I can. I'm not saying that this system is for everybody. You all asked me to do this. I'm not trying to push AccuQuilt on anybody, any die cutting system on anybody. I'm just showing you how I actually cut, and I'm not concerned about the cost. I've gotten over the cost of just everything in general costs a lot of money. If you're looking at how much a piece of fabric costs, a yard of fabric costs too much money. Cotton batting costs too much money. So I'm not really concerned about the money. That's not why I'm here today. I'm here to help people that want to learn how to efficiently cut on their die cutting systems. If you prefer to rotary cut, you are more than welcome to do that, but I don't see how you can rotary cut for a pineapple block faster than I can die cut it with this particular board. So I'm not against people that want to rotary cut. We use templates for years to make quilts, and they got done. So I'm not against any of that. It's just what I want to do and where I want to spend my time. And we all spend money with quilting, so we're all eventually wasting some money in the quilt making process. It's just a matter of where you want to spend your money. That's just my opinion. Patricia wants to know, does it matter how the fabric lays on the board? Now, AccuQuilt will tell you when you cut that you want your lengthwise grain. So you want your lengthwise of your fabric to be going through the die cutting machine. So technically for this particular board, you want your lengthwise grain going here. Since I'm cutting scraps, I don't really care. You can cut this a whole lot faster if you were cutting yardage because you'll be dealing with less pieces. But me personally, if I'm cutting scraps, I just cut whatever size scrap I have that will fit my board, and I haven't been having any difficulty with the pieces fitting on this particular pineapple board. I think this board, when you get a block on board, I think they're designed a lot better than some of your regular AccuQuilt Go die, where they're all meeting up like the crazy quilt die. You got so many pieces meeting up in particular spot that stuff gets caught in it. But I haven't had anything get caught on this particular die. Let me make sure I have no more questions. And then I do utilize I save all of my fabric scraps. Think about this. If you got a bag of scraps and you're not using them, or whatever, because I also use like my cut pieces. If I got blocks, squares that are cut 4 inches, I'll put them on here if I want to and cut my half square triangles out. If I've got 2.5 inch strips or 2 inch strips, I'll put them on here too, and I'll cut out some of my pieces, because I can cut out one side and then come back and cut out the other side. So I do have scraps, but I'm actually cutting from scraps as well. But I save all my scrap batting, and I save all of my scrap cuttings for this girl who makes the large size dog beds for the animal shelter. So you do have scraps, but it's not fabric still sitting in a bag. It's not stuff that all this stuff I've been cutting is stuff that I had never put up or had pulled out for another project. And so they were just extra scrap pieces, and I'm actually utilizing those. So, it seems like somebody is saying prayers for somebody. I guess I missed something in the comments, something. Hello, this is Sherry's husband, Katrina's brother-in-law. I just want to let you all know Sherry was just rushed out. I prove she doesn't bleed. Oh my gosh. Prayers for you all. Oh my goodness. For your entire family. That's horrible. Mary saying, so sorry, and please know we're praying for her. Vicky says Katrina hugs and prayers. Tiffany saying, sorry to hear prayers. She's good. Kelly says, thank you for letting us know, prayers for all of you. Joni says, saying prayers for Sherry. And they're saying that so many of the symptoms fall on both MS and COVID. I've been trying to convince her to just be herself. Katrina went with her because her sister is too upset. They allowed her to go. Well, that's really nice that they're both together. So Regina's saying, what I noticed is that the, she's saying the host, it cuts both ends of the dog ears. That does save time. Yeah, and then you've got like your B and C pieces that have like a double trim on the edge. So it's those pieces are time saving too, because they actually do line up in two different spots when you're placing them. C and D, that's the only difference, is how the dog ears are trimmed. Mary is asking, do you have the die run all the way through the machine even when you only cover a small section? You're cutting using a smaller cutting mat. What happens is when you're putting this into the machine, let me just cut some squares. And sometimes what I do is I'll turn it so that my squares are going in first. I'm not cutting squares. I'm going to cut half square triangles. I'm sorry. So I've got a duplicate I didn't know was in here. 4, 5, 6, 7. And here's 8. So I have been cutting 8 for the most part. So I'm going to move my long mat. And I'm going to go ahead and put in my board with just the H part covered, the half square triangle. And what I would do is I would put it in like this. So I've got the half square triangle cut. I send that in first. And then once it gets off of the mat, it's still running, but I just pull it out. Because it doesn't have the mat and the fabric, it doesn't have any pressure, so you can just pull it on through. So that was a good question. Thank you. And I'm just trying to answer any questions on this because I have basically shown you how I cut for the most part. And I am just going to sit here and cut for the rest of our sew-in, but I do want to answer any questions. And when I'm cutting for my just my G pieces, I just line those up over my G. I actually cut these just 1/4 inch bigger than what I need. And then I put these through as well, with just that part covered. If I'm not cutting anything else. Most times I have other things that I'm cutting. I never just put through those one section unless it's at the end of the board. I'm at the end of my cutting, not the end of the board. I'm at the end of my cutting. So then this is what I have. If I'm just cutting my accent piece, I just cover that part of the board. And then I go ahead and put the mat on that section. And slide that through. And I can put this through in either end first. It doesn't matter. But I tend to go ahead and put the piece that I'm feeding in with the mat first, just so I know my fabric won't move. And so then when I take that off, then I have the waist here. And then I've got my accent pieces that are cut, waiting for me to use. So let me make sure we got the different questions answered, because all I'm going to be doing is cutting in the future. And Joan's saying that she has a question about the electric versus the hand crank. And I don't see her question. So I don't know what her question is. She just says she has a question. I have a question about the electric versus the hand crank. And then I'll go ahead. Eric Odom must have come in to see people saying hi. Regina says, what is the total length of the ghost system when in use? Like this is a longer die board, so you're going to need more space because this die board is longer. But if the die board is just sitting on the ghost system, if it fits on the system, opened up, And I'm just guessing because this is, I'm trying to line up my hand and have it give me a measurement. So hold on. I'm just going to guess. This is totally approximate. I'm going to say 19 inches long this way. It actually folds up. Got to move it. It folds up. And so it opens out and is 19 inches about. And then this way, I'm just going to put my hand here and pull the ruler over. I'm going to say it's about 18 and a half to another 19. So yeah, that's the space that you'll need. But if you're putting this board on here, let's see how much it hangs off. I'd say it hangs off another foot for the long boards, but most of your boards are not this long. And then I also, sometimes I will use my sewing machine. You know those plastic tables you can put on your sewing machine? I would also use that right here if I know that I'm not going to be here to catch it every time it comes out. I'll go ahead and put that. I use it sometimes on my iron system once I've done my pressing of my scraps. Then I'll put that on top of the iron, and then it helps to catch this coming out because I can adjust the legs to make it fit the opening here. So that's a good question. Joan says, I'm looking at the Studio too. She was asking what's the difference between the systems. I'm not familiar with the Go Me and the Go Me, and then there's another small one, and then you've got the regular Go, you got the Go Baby, and then you've got the regular Go, and then you've got the Go Electric, and then they also have the Studio too. The difference in the Go systems and the actual Studio, you notice the Studio doesn't say it's a Go anything. It's a whole different die system that uses different types of, the thickness in the boards are different. They're thicker on the Studio. They have different blades in there. They cut more layers of fabric than the Go die system does. They advertise it as cutting 10. The Go is advertised at cutting 6. I do notice that on other Go dies, for some reason, this board is different where I'm able to cut 8 pieces. Sometimes I'm not able to cut through that many layers on the Go system because of how the die blades are inside. So it doesn't work all the time, but on this pineapple one, it does work. The regular Go is, of course, hand cranked. I had a regular Go, and I went to the Studio system because my handle got stuck. And so I sent it to AccuQuilt to get it fixed. And then while it was getting fixed, I went ahead and bought the Studio because I found I needed it to cut. So they fixed it and then sent it back to me. And when I got it back, I had liked my Studio system so well that I ended up selling the Go system on eBay. I also bought, like, my strip dies that I had on the Go system. I actually rebought them for my Studio because I like the way the Studio dies cut my strips better than I did on the Go system. Plus, I could get wider strips and cut more strips at one time. So I also sold my Go along with all of my duplicate die boards at the same time. When you use Go dies on the Studio system, you do need to buy the adapter plates. And with that, what that means is that you can use your Go dies on your Studio dies. So you don't have to get rid of any of your Go dies if you don't want to. The reason why I like the Studio crank is because it's, when they say something that cuts like butter, one knife cuts like butter, the other one doesn't. That's the difference in the Go handle and the Studio handle. It goes through a whole lot smoother. It's a bigger handle to crank, but it's not any, to me, it doesn't have a whole lot of resistance like it does on the Go crank handle. Now, I've had somebody tell me that Go has also changed the handle. I mean, AccuQuilt has changed the handle on that Go. But I don't know that because I have never used that. So then I purchased the Go Big just because it was a great deal that came with some other stuff. I bought it from somebody selling it on Facebook Marketplace. And it had some other items with it that I also already had, some of them, but I wanted, they had this in conjunction with about 5 or 6 other dies, as well as one of the gold cubes that I wanted. So I ended up buying it because it was cheaper than even buying one of the gold cubes. Okay, so I got this instead, and made money by selling some parts of it to other people. So to me, that's the difference in the systems. Let's see. Oh my gosh, Eric says my AccuQuilt broke today. Actually, just the handle broke off. Funny, AccuQuilt has a replacement part for the handle, so it must break often. And that must be something that they must be doing now, because before you had to send your whole machine to them and then they send it back. And they shipped it back to me free shipping, but I had to pay the shipping to ship it to them. And I think they didn't even send me back mine. They sent me back one that they had refurbished because it came back pretty quick. And Kevin says, I thought it might damage your die if you only had a portion of it covered. No, it doesn't damage your die because you don't have the pressure there to cut. So it's just in there, just holding space. And it's not going to cut anything because it doesn't even have the right pressure to cut. So it doesn't damage anything. Lisa says, T, I have the big shot for paper. Will it cut? Will the fabric dies fit in it? I have never tried to put my dies in there, but I have been told that people have saying that they have made it fit. I know one lady in my Facebook group said that she bought a gold die to cut in her big shot and it didn't fit, but she said her husband did something. Now, I don't know if he had to make her a plate to go under it, or if she had to have him trim part off. I don't know what they did, but she says that her husband made it fit. So there are ways that you can do that. It's just not something that I need to do, so I have no way of knowing, but I can go get a big shot and we can see what the difference is. So hold on just a second. So for those that don't know what this is the Sizzix die cutting machine, and they come with their own platform. And this is an old one by Stampin' Up. Stampin' Up went into conjunction with Sizzix so that they can put their name on them, and then they would sell them through the Stampin' Up crafting company. And then you have these boards. And so basically you need, for whatever you're cutting, when you put with Stampin' Up, you have 2 plates that you put on, and then you need it to equal the size of this platform. So I have never tried to cut a die in here because I've always had the appropriate systems, but this does not go in here. So apparently her husband must have done something she must have shaved off something on the go to make it fit in her big shot. So my answer would be no, it does not fit. Okay. So just the board by itself wouldn't fit, and you still got to add a mat. So I would say no, it does not fit. Sarah says, I have the Go Baby and I haven't ever used it. And I found that when I first bought my Go system, I bought the Go, and I bought the 2.5-inch strip die. They came with that free value die that would cut 2.5-inch squares, 4.5-inch squares, I think, and then half square triangles for 2.5-inch, for 2-inch finished. And I found that I didn't use it because it was just quicker for me. By the time I pulled all of this stuff out, it was just quicker for me to go ahead and rotary cut the pieces that I needed. When I really started using it was I started buying dies that were curved, like Drunkard's Path, things that were more complicated to cut. My tumblers, because they had the angle, chevrons, because they had an angle, half square triangles of different sizes. I started buying those type of dies, and then I found that I used it a little bit more because I was cutting things that were more complicated. When you're just cutting squares and rectangles or strips, those are so easy. If you only need 8 strips for binding, who's going to pull out the die cutting system just to cut 8 strips? However, I find that I use it more now because I keep it out. This one doesn't stay out. I actually have only had this out since quarantine, since we were home and I started doing these videos on the pineapple. This has been out. My studio has a permanent home and it stays out all the time so that I can always go over there and cut. So I find I use it all the time, even if I'm making one quilt block and they tell me that I need 1 4.5-inch squares and 4 2.5-inch squares. I go over there and cut with it because I'm always using just scraps of stuff that I have laying around, and I just have to make sure if it's for my guild that it's in the right colorway. So I tend to use it all the time. So I found, once I found a permanent home for it and had it available for me to use, then I used it a lot more. If you don't pull it out or make a place for it or get your dies organized so you can easily get to them, then I think that you will not use your die cutting system. And Phyllis says that she bought the Go Big Electric because of arthritis. And that's another reason that I think they came out with this, because they had a lot of customers that were having difficulty turning the Go handle, decided to go to this system. Just trying to make sure we don't have any more questions for the Go system. Pamela saying, I made enough quilts with it and sold them, so the machine paid for itself. Yeah, and to me, as far as my time, like when I'm cutting, I've done a lot of Body Hunter quilts, and she has you cutting like making 600 half square triangles. You can trust and believe that the first time that I had to cut for her 600 half square triangles, I was so glad that I had this die cutting system, because that is a lot of cutting. And even if you're paper piecing them, that's still a lot of process you got to go through. Angela's asking, so do you accept fabric and cut 2.5 strips for people? Not really, because I'm a one-person shop and I have so many other things that I'm working on, and I would have to charge people for that, and I have never charged for that, so I would have to like kind of time. When I'm cutting for myself, like I say, my systems are already set up. So when I run out of scraps for my pineapple, I say, oh, I'm running out of my diagonal pieces. So I'll just go cut, scraps for my diagonal pieces and run a few through just to get me some pieces. I have never really timed what I would charge somebody to cut like a whole lot of fabric. I just haven't done that yet. But the studio was originally made for shop owners. They used to lease it out to people in their stores so that they could buy fabric from them. You had to buy the fabric from them, and then they charged you a rate to use the die cutting machine to cut it. And then if you've got the Go Baby, I think your opening is like 6 inches wide. And then the Go, your opening for your dies are 8 inches wide. The Go Big, I think it's like 14, 16 inches wide, 14 maybe. This is 12. I'd say about 16 maybe. 14, 16, somewhere up in there. So you have different openings on how wide of a die you can put into your system. So if you get one of those wide block on boards, that won't fit into your Go system. You'll have to go to the Go Big Electric. Tiffany is asking, what do you do with a die if you make a quilt with it and don't like the die? Do they have a trade-in system? I have never, I have every last one of my dies that I've ever purchased, because you never know when somebody is going to request a quilt, especially if you make quilts for people. I tend to keep them. So I haven't gotten rid of any dies. As I said, I sometimes overcut for my projects on purpose. And then I can have, like, for a tumbler quilt, I can make a tumbler quilt at any time. So if a baby or something need a baby quilt or something, I can easily go make a quilt. It's already pre-cut, and I don't have to worry about that. But I have never gotten rid of a die. But as far as my own personal stash, I did sell the duplicate dies that I have. So I just sell them at my guild. We have like a free-for-all is what we call it, once a year. And they tend to sell because somebody else may not have that die. And I tend to go for like a little bit less than what half price is for the die, because I've already used it. I've got some money out of it. I've saved some time by using the die. So if I can get just slightly less than half of what a die costs, I feel like that's a good deal. How long are the blades sharp for? I haven't had, the blades don't ever need to be sharpened, and you can cut fabric and paper. I haven't had any die that's not cutting because it's not sharp. The blades are made to stay sharp. They're only cutting from pressure being applied. And CN is saying that the Go dies fit in the big shot, but not the other way around. I just tried to put this Go die into the big shot, and it did not go into the big shot machine. So I don't know how you're getting that to fit, and I didn't even have a mat on top. Ellie is saying, I missed most of your conversations, but can I pay you for a pineapple quilt kit from you? No. I don't, because I've cut I've cut tumbler quilts. I've cut like Rob Peter to pay Paul type quilts. And when you start adding up how much fabric it is that you're cutting, people don't even want to pay. I've charged like $50 to $60 for those kits, maybe 20. Like I design a quilt top around it, and most people just don't want to pay for it. So I'm just saying no, because I don't want to spend my time cutting per se. But you know, I don't know what I'm saying no right now because I'm busy. So no right now. How do you store your dies? My dies are all stored up under where you all, I have my sewing machine case, and then I took my black rack and set it on top of my sewing machine case right here. But AccuQuilt has some wire racks, and I ordered a few of those, and then I stopped buying those because they're very costly. And my AccuQuilt dies, my smaller ones, not my strip dies, not the long ones, but my small ones, IKEA at one point came out with these little gray trays, and those are stored in my long arm room. And they have about, I'm going to say about 10 slots in them, and I can put 2 or 3 dies on each line that they've got. It was made to store DVDs. For some reason, they quit selling those, but us die cutters, we love those for our die boards. They fit into that DVD tray perfect. It was the same size as when you bought a movie and it came in the case. They were made to fit that, and we were able to put our Go dies in. And then I have a few of the AccuQuilt wire racks over here, the white racks that they sell. But I have since found 2 different things that work. You can also buy pot holder racks that you can put your pot lids in for your kitchen. Those work. And also I have purchased metal desk file folder holders, and I use those, and I can get like 2 or 3 dies in each one, probably 3 of my Go dies and maybe 1 or 2 of my studio, depending on what I'm doing with it. But I can put multiple dies into those slots. So that's what I have down here. My studio is kind of in those big file folder things you put on your desk, and then I got some of my Go dies in the pot holder racks for your lids. And I guess I can try to see if I can take pictures of the ones in there, but you're not going to find those. I was so upset when they quit selling those. And I got enough to hold my current die situation, because most of the dies I buy are studio dies now, except that if they have a block on board, they tend not to make all of the block on boards for the studio, which is very strange. So then I have to go buy a block on board through the Go system. Kelly is talking to Cliff, says there are different cutting machine systems, AccuQuilt Go, AccuQuilt Baby, Sizzix, and other. I can't remember. I suggest you email T directly and should be able to help you. Yeah, there are a lot of different die cutting machines. What is so fascinating right now is that the Gemini die cutting machine is coming out with fabric dies. They're calling them, what do they call them? Multi-purpose dies. And you can cut like leather and stuff, and they're just thin little dies like it is for paper crafting, but they're a little bit thicker. And it's amazing to me that they can cut 6 and 8 layers with a little thin die through the Gemini. And so they're trying to get at the quilters as well now. They're getting into soft side. They call them the softer side of their company. Let's see, what else? Thank you, Lisa. She's saying to give a thumbs up, everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and continue cutting. I'm trying to make sure. Cliff, if you're wanting some information, my email address is teaquilts@teaquilts.com. And then I'll answer any questions that you have about the system. And I do know that AccuQuilt tomorrow only, not tomorrow, what's the date? This is the 8th. On the 10th, they're saying that if you spend $200 on dies on the 10th, that they'll give you this pineapple die for free. So if you've got a system and been looking to get some dies, there's a code that I actually put on my website. It is not on their website. As an affiliate, and I'm an affiliate for AccuQuilt, which means that I talk about AccuQuilt products and I will recommend them for sale. I do recommend them for sale because I do like their product. That means I'll make a small commission. I do not work for the company. I'm not made to give them a positive review. If something is jacked up and not working, I do let you all know. So this pineapple die is a good die for me. I haven't had issues with it like I've had with some of the other dies as far as having to clean it out. But so I don't work for AccuQuilt. They don't make me say nice things about their company. I'm just showing you what I do in my day, and somebody asked me to show this. And then they also will send me links as an affiliate that are not advertised that I can give to people that you all can use to get credit. For anyone that cuts strips with the AccuQuilt, how do you not get that little indentation at the fold? On my strip dies, and that's the thing with AccuQuilt, they still don't do enough for marking for me. I make a line that's going across my blade, and I use a ruler to make sure that it's parallel. And I make sure that I line my fabric up to that line, and I put it inside the die blade. This time I draw a parallel line inside, and I don't have one that I can get to easy because I got my board right there. But I'm trying to see if I can find a strip die. This is going to be a studio die, guys. If I can get it out of here. Because I'm coming from the other side. Sorry. But this is the studio die. They're much thicker. And what I do at the top of my dies, top and bottom, as you can see, is I'll lay a ruler. They tell you where your die blade is, and so I'll just take one of those metallic markers so I can see it, and then I mark where my die blade is, and then I'll use my ruler and place one of my ruler lines on that marking to make sure that I'm drawing a straight parallel line this way, and then I draw that line in about 1/4 of an inch from where the end of that blade is. And so that way, when I go to put my fabric on this die, I'm lining the edge of my folded strip that I'm trying to cut my fabric into strips. I make sure that my fabric is on that line. So I'm hoping this doesn't move. But I try to make sure that it stays, and it's not going to stay because I'm lifting it up. And this probably isn't straight because I told you all I'm cutting approximates anyway. But when I line up, I want to make sure that I'm lining up on these lines. That way, when I cut, I'm not going to have the fold that didn't get cut because I'm right on the edge of the blade. And then also, I find that it moves down. When you're cutting 2 layers of fabric in the strips, I find that it moves. So sometimes I'll release my mat halfway through. So let's say that I'm cutting this, and I start cutting, and I get to about here. I'll take my mat and just do like this and release it, and then it kind of helps to let that fabric move and lay flat again, and then continue turning, running it through the machine. So that's just different ways of doing it so that you don't get the fold. And always run your fold end in first, Eric. And then if you're still getting a Z, it could be that you're not lining up the edge of your fabric. So if I got new fabric, or if I just ironed fabric and it's not straight, when I go to cut this, it's going to give me that V because it's not straight. So let me show you what I mean. I'm gonna mess this up a little bit, and it's gonna go right back into position because this is a fresh piece of fabric. I just lost a piece of fabric. But what I do when I have fabric and I'm gonna cut, like say I just cut 3/4 of a yard, I want to cut it for binding strips or something, I hold it upside down like this. I hold it just like this, and you can see in the middle if it's bowing. So then I start moving my fabric. You can see at the bottom now where I've drastically moved it over, and you can see that it's not straight. I keep moving my fabric until it's straight down there on that bottom. I don't care where they put the fold. I want to make sure that when I put this on there, that part is very flat. So that's how I tend to cut. And then I would put this on my board that way. So it could be that you're trying to line up the edges. Don't line up the edges. Grab both of your salvages and line up from that way. It'll be a lot better for you. Mary says she has arthritis. Sheila says, yes, been there with Bonnie Hunter thing. I have the Go and just love it. May upgrade to the Go Big next year. And that's in anything that we do. You start at where you can start, where you can just get in, and then you can move up from there if you can. I mean, I started with the Go. I thought I would never have another Go system because I love my studio. And then even when the Go Electric came out, I really paid attention to all the stuff. And then I decided I wasn't going to buy it. And then all of a sudden, something just lands in your lap. Sometimes you just got to be patient. Like I told you all, make sure you're watching the Facebook Marketplace. Now, I did have to drive 5 hours. I drove to the suburbs of Chicago. It was like 4 hours from my house. But you know, I'm retired. I wasn't doing anything. It was I dragged my husband with me. We both went. I drove up there. We came on back. And I got such a good deal that I didn't mind going to get it. And I prefer going to get something like that over me paying somebody, buying something from an individual that I'm not aware of or know anything about and waiting for them to send me something that costs $600 in the mail. You know, I'd rather go get it and then pay you when I get it. And then I also made sure that it worked. I had her plug it in. I didn't have any fabric, but we at least ran a dye through the system. So every time you get something, you don't have to get it new if you can't afford it either. I personally didn't want to, even on the deals, I was like, I couldn't justify buying a Go Big. But when it came with a cube that I wanted, it came with some other dyes that I've since utilized and done videos on. I sold some dyes that came with it, so then it started to make sense for me. So, Sue says, I personally have 89 dyes. I understand you're not getting rid of any after you purchase them because sometimes they're no longer made after a time. And she got paper or something. But, yeah, you just never know when you're going to need a dye. Like sometimes my guild, we do charity stuff. So then I've been able to use my die cutting systems to cut for them. We even have one now in the guild. But then they may not have the dye that they need. So I'd give them the dye or I'll cut for them. I just don't get rid of any dyes. I make sure that I'm not holding duplicates because I don't want to be wasting. Like if I got it on my studio, like for cutting, say, 3.5-inch half square triangles. I'm not going to keep one for my Go as well. I don't need 2 3.5-inch triangle dies. So I get rid of any duplicate things that I get through various deals or because at one point I was accidentally buying stuff twice. And so then I started making a list on Excel because you all know I use Excel all the time. And then AccuQuilt now has an app that you can put on your phone and you can put in everything that you purchase. So whenever you're out or you're ordering, you know exactly what it is you have. And then you don't have to buy duplicates. The only thing I don't like about the app is that it does not allow you to print your list. And I'm a person that I like to see my list. So that's the only thing I don't like about their app. And I've got quite a few dyes. Let's see how many I got listed into my AccuQuilt. And it doesn't even take studio dyes. This is just AccuQuilt dye. So let's see if I can find this app. I forgot what it's called. I haven't been in there in a while because I haven't purchased anything. It's called AccuQuilt. Imagine that. And I think it will tell you, I got 118. It tells you, let me unplug my phone. Up here at the top of the screen, it'll tell you how many dyes you have. So I have 118 gold dyes. That's not including the studio stuff if I'm not mistaken. But let me make sure, because I thought this was just all AccuQuilt Go. So these are all Go. Oh, it is studio in here. So it's studio and Go. So that makes me feel a little bit better. And then if you got a Go Cube, they just consider that whole Go Cube as one item too. And then it's also, I've got a few patterns. So I'm just going to say I probably got about 105. I got a few patterns in here. So, yeah. So then you know everything that you have at your fingertips, which is nice. The only thing, like I said, I wish they would update the app so we could send it to the printer. That's my only negative about the app. What is a cube? That's from Merrick. A cube is, say you like making 12-inch blocks or 9-inch blocks or 8-inch blocks or 6-inch blocks. Well, they give you 8 different dies in a cube that you can use to make over 48, 50, or whatever the magic number is, blocks that you can make by just having those 8 dies. And they give you they'll give you like a visual chart of what pieces you need to make to make those particular blocks. So that's what a cube is. And then they also have accessory cubes that goes with the cubes, okay? So they got those as well. Cherie says, I'm looking at the AccuQuilt now online. I remember seeing them at a quilt show. I never really understood how it works, but at work, we cut out letters using a similar product. And that could be something like what I just showed you on the Big Shot, where you're cutting out letters, because it can do paper. Also, it cuts the little thin lip dies as well. Bye, Joni. She had to leave. So what time is it? We got another hour. So I'm just going to... Good night, Ellen. Think she had to go. Diane says she's going to bed. Good night. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut. San had to leave, so I'm sure I missed you guys already. But I'm just going to do some cutting. You can decide if a die cutting system is for you, just like you can decide what type of sewing machine you got, or if you want to sew by hand. You know, everybody has a different opinion of stuff. So that's how I look at die cutting. Do you want to sew by sewing machine? Do you want to sew by hand? And then what type do you want to sew? What type of sewing machine? People have their own favorites on sewing machine. So it's just like that with any other quilt notion. You can decide for yourself if you want to do it or not. So I'm going to go ahead. I've lost some fabric strips while I've been chatting, but I'll get those later. So I'm going to stack up some pieces here so I can do some sewing. We are going to do a Zoom meeting tomorrow, where if you're in the Zoom, if you're talking, Zoom will pop you up as a person in the room, so you will be visible. You just need to know that, because I think a lot of people weren't aware that when they went on to Facebook that they were going to be shown. It was a lot of us in bonnets, but hey, that's just real life. Eric has set that up. All that information is listed inside of the Teaquilts Facebook group. So if you're interested in that, you can ask to join the Teaquilts Facebook group. You do need to answer the 2 questions that it's asking you. Basically, how did you learn about this Facebook group? You can just put in YouTube, and then it asks, are you a quilter? And just yes or no. You can even be no, and you can still get in. But if you don't answer those questions, I don't let you in, because I don't want robots requesting to be entered into the room. So if you don't answer those questions, I don't answer your request. But anybody can get into that. I got some squares here that are smaller, and I like to put those on the bottom. So since I've already started stacking, I'm just going to take them off. And I don't even know how many I put on here. I've completely lost count. I'm just stacking fabric. And then I do this with my my dark fabrics, and then I go back and do this with my light fabrics. But right now I don't need light fabrics cut. Oops, I unplugged my machine. I have never cut in here, so I had to figure out how to make all of this fit for cutting. But like I said, I could crank this through a whole lot faster than the Go Electric. But if you have difficulty with arthritis, then this could be the machine for you. And the only reason I was using this because it took less space on my ironing board than my studio. My studio cutter has 2 wings, and they come down, so it takes up a lot more space, and it's heavier, and so I didn't want to put all of that on my ironing board, because ironing boards are very light. The main thing is just to stay organized with where you're putting your piece, you know, keeping your pieces in order. And I just put them in alphabetical order of use. So when I'm piecing my blocks, I'm not trying to guess where my pieces are. And I dropped some pieces on the floor. And it was so funny because I was sewing blocks yesterday and the day before, and I kept running out of pieces, and I had all of this fabric cut but I couldn't run it through because I knew I needed to save some of it for you all to see, so I kept cutting only what I need to finish the next block. I dropped some of my pieces when I took my mat off. Sometimes the mat takes some pieces with it, but you know, most times I'm standing up. So this is my first time cutting standing down. So that could be what my problem is. But I love die cutting. And all I'm doing is just lining up one corner so that I can get my pieces aligned for that edge. And if you're one of those neat people that cut really neat and you stack your stuff into nice stacks, which is not me, then this will be easier for you to do. You don't even have to do it. You can just line up as you go. But I have such limited space that I just try to do it as I'm putting it on the board. Line up one corner and just put it on. 4, 5, 6, 7, I think this is 8. We'll do that. Once I started putting 8 on, then I, you know, tried it with 9. It worked as well. I was like, Teajuana, just stop. Stop with 8. 8 is good. Trying to see. And then I can take these smaller squares that I put aside first. See, sometimes I cut the squares just a 1/4 inch bigger because that's all that I have. But a 1/4 inch just means I have less waste instead of having it a 1/2 inch bigger. It'll still work. I just got to make sure I lay that on in a different spot. And then I can put big ones on top. And as long as I'm not covering the die blades with my other fabrics, everything works fine. They're just butting up right along where I have my lines marked. I still got pieces I'm finding. All right. And then I'll just show you guys that are still here how I use the strips when they're smaller. Sometimes I'll even take, like, I have a bag of 2-inch strips, and I recommend cutting 1 3/4. But if I got 2-inch strips, I'll just lay them on the board and cut them. Oops. So let's get all the waste off. And then, like I said, I just have a bag over here that I'm collecting everything in. And when I see this lady that make these bags, between my batting and that, I'm going to have about 3 black trash bags filled with stuff for her. So she's going to be really happy. he doesn't have to add a thing. So, got CD. These are my bees. And I'm all turned around. When I'm at my ironing station, I got a spot for everything back there. So it's a lot easier for me to manipulate all of this. Those I'm not using in this quilt. And then I'll be ready to make like another, what? I have 40 blocks made now, and I'm working on the next set. So I'm hoping that I can make at least 80 blocks. I'm shooting for 100. We'll see. I finally made it to the so-called half mark yesterday, so I was really happy about that. This piece is a little short. I'm not sure if it's big enough to go. It can go into the next pile. Sometimes when I'm cutting and I got layers and I'm just cutting pieces, I might get to the cutting board and something may not fit. So I just pull it out and put it onto a different spot on the board. Because I'm cutting stacks of scraps. Something could have ran out and I didn't even know the fabric had ran out. 3, 4. I'm trying to make sure that I at least have 8 since I got so many pieces to cut. Since it will cut 8 again. This is not AccuQuilt's recommendation. If you're having a problem with your machine, don't tell them that you were cutting 8 pieces of fabric because I said so. But I haven't had any problems. It is nice to just put this in here and just let it cut. Don't have to do a thing but catch it on the other end. Mary Jo says, do you work on more than one project at a time? Usually I do. But right now I'm working on different pineapple projects at a time. I actually have another one where I have all my blocks made and I'm just waiting to put that together. And that's because I'm creating a new lecture right now. And so I am trying to make different styles of pineapple quilts. And then my next one, I'm actually going to be doing something a little bit different. So just stay tuned for what's coming up next. And so I do work on more than one thing at a time. I'm also doing more than one type of thing at a time. I'm longhorn quilting. I am making patterns. I'm packaging orders, making t-shirts. So I'm doing a whole lot of things at more than one time. So I don't just make, I don't just sew and that's it. I do so many other aspects of quilting. The G's I'm not using. That goes over there. Here's F and C. So yes, I do. Now let's see if this will fit. Nope, it was just too little. It was in the wrong stack. Sometimes I'll place pieces in the wrong stack because that's exactly what happened. I got a lot more pieces coming up in the wrong stack. So that's why that piece was too little. The longest part for this is me pressing my scraps. sometimes when I have, like if I'm working on a project, I'll go ahead, if I know I'm cutting pineapple pieces, I'll go ahead and cut them to this size. But since I haven't been working on other projects, I didn't have that luxury this time. So I'm having to cut my pieces out. Also, again, about tomorrow night, if you are wanting to do the Zoom, you need to go over to the Teaquilts Facebook group and sign up, because you're going to need to register with Zoom as well before you can get into that meeting. Once that meeting starts, or even a half hour before that meeting starts, Eric or I will not be able to help you, because we're going to be busy working with the Zoom meeting. So it's not that we're ignoring you at that time. It's like we're in the meeting, so we're not seeing your messages and all of that type of stuff. So you need to make sure, if you want to do the Zoom, we're just doing a sew in where you all can sew. I'll probably be sewing pineapple blocks since I'm cutting pieces. And we'll just be chatting for like 2 hours. We're not going to do all night, because I got a trip Monday morning I got to get up for. So I will not be on Zoom all night. Eric's in charge. Eric can have you all on Zoom all night. But I'm going to have to get off after about 2 hours, because I'm going to have to go to bed, because I actually got a road trip on Monday. Yes, Eric, road trip on Monday. So you all are talking to each other in the chat. That's really good. So I don't feel so bad for not being in there the entire time. I do want to get some of this stuff cut. So I can do some sewing. I want to get these blocks done so I can move on to a different project. And I tend to only sew on this when I'm doing lives, because I'm doing so many other things. And Eric talking about, did I hear Jackman's? Nope. And then Mary says, where are we going Monday? Mary says, is Kevin going? Ellen says, T, have a safe trip on Monday. And Mary says, uh-huh. And Eric says, Kevin is probably dragging T with him. I don't know if Kevin is still here or not. She's cheating on you, Eric. We weren't invited on this road trip. That's Kelly A. Ellen says, T, I want that die cutting machine order ASAP. Annie RAW1 says, hi, T. Hi, Annie. Welcome. And road trip, it's going to be interesting. I don't know if I want to tell you where I'm going or not. Or do I let it be a surprise? I think I'm going to let it be a surprise where I'm going. That's what I'm going to do. You'll find out. So Kevin must be gone. And this time I'm actually pulling Kevin. It's not Kevin pulling me this time. This time I'm pulling Kevin. 2, 3, 4, 5. But he's got to see if he can get off work. See, that's the problem for Kevin. He normally works on Monday, so. But we'll see. If he can't go, I'll do it by myself. I'll just make my husband ride along. He don't like quilting trips. He don't like them at all, but he'll do it. Okay, run this one through. Whoops. My mat was trying to slap me. Oh, Sarah says, I'm traveling on Monday, but I'm going home to see my doctor. Pray everything's good, girl. Positive results. And Eric says, Eric moved this part of the world, so you go with her. Right, Eric moved over to this side of the world. I think me, Eric, and Kevin together would be a hoot. Ellen, when you asked me that, I have not had time to do any investigation. So let me figure that out probably tomorrow, and we'll figure it out because it's not going to get shipped any faster. So we'll figure all of that out tomorrow. When you were contacting me, I was trying to get my room rearranged and get my stuff from the back to in this room so that I could do this live with the die cutting machine. So I haven't had time to investigate for you because I want to make sure that if I can get you the best price. That's the thing too. Trying to make sure. I want to check. I want to check to make sure that they haven't sent me any other affiliate codes that could apply, just to make sure. Because I don't know if, I haven't been on the website, so I don't know if the Go Baby is on sale or not. And if you're ordering the Go Baby, you're also going to have to need something to cut. So you need to figure out what it is you need to cut. Are you trying to cut your 1.5 inch strips? Because you're going to need that die as well. I thought Ellen had said good night. Ellen, are you trying to buy a strip die to cut your 1.5 inch strips? You'll need a strip and a mat. And then have to make sure it's one that works with the Go Baby. 3. And you all see how many times I've cut 8 layers of fabric at least. And haven't had any problems with anything catching. Haven't had to use my scissors once. Although I do have them here, but I have not had to use them. Six, 7. Here is 8. Oops. Look like I got a nice little stack of squares here. Just lay that right there. And cut them up. Oh, she wants the 2. Okay. Okay. So I will go in there and make sure that we can get you the 200. She wants to spend $200 so she gets the pineapple, the free pineapple die. And that will be on the 10th, Ellen. So I can't order that right now to get you that free die. We have to wait until August 10th. But I will make sure, go in and look at that for you. Okay? That's a one-day deal only, people that are looking at that. And see, my stack back here is growing. I'm going to show you this stack in a minute. Oh, and I also said I was going to show you how I cut strips, and I haven't done that yet. So I'll show you my pile that I've cut so far. I got so many pieces, they're not even sitting up. I know I'm going to have an avalanche when I pick this up. It is not going to be pretty. Okay, this is not going to be pretty. Look at all of these pieces that I've cut. And I got more lights, but this stack has come up very fast. All of these different stacks. I don't see any other system where you can cut like this and get this many pieces this fast once your fabric is ready for cutting. Or when I say ready, I guess I mean like pressed. So I've got these strips here. They're 9 inches long, but they were only like 1 3/4 or 2 inches wide. So I can use those as well. What I do is I'm only going to put on one side of the board. So this is my 9-inch side. And so I already know that I'm not going to be using G. So I'm not even going to put anything on this side. I'm just going to stack up 8 strips and cut these E's and F's off. And that's all that I'm going to cut is E's and F's. That was the same strip. I just want to put something in between so when I go to pull them, I won't sew 2 strips together. I think that's 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And I may as well put something else on the board. I just wanted to show you that one side. And we're going to cut it though. And I can put the remainder of these squares on here. Okay. So when I put these on, I only covered that one side, and I made sure that I covered the entire blade so I don't see any of the dark spot showing where I have this fabric laid. So that way I can use smaller pieces of fabric too. They don't have to all be at least 3 3/4 wide. Let me see what's going on in the chat while I'm waiting. Eric says he wants to go to Nashville one day. There was a AQS, they used to call them the AQS Expo, Quilt Expo, when they had them in other places other than Paducah. That was the first place that they had it other than Paducah, was Nashville at the Opry Mills Hotel and Convention Center. Had a great time in Nashville. So I just cut those pieces. I'm taking off all the other pieces, but just I'll show you just that part. B, D, E, and F. And now for somebody that didn't hardly have any pieces, I got a whole lot of pieces back here, but its pieces are falling off, but it still will cut just that section I wanted to cut, and I still have pieces that I can take off of my board. Okay, so you don't have to fill the whole entire area. Just make sure you fill that portion of the blade that you're trying to cut pieces for. And I even have smaller pieces that I can cut just that C section. So let me get that. See, I even have smaller sections because I don't need those G's. So if I want, I can just put on pieces that will cover the C. So let me just line these up. 2, 3. here's 8. I'm going to cover up that C section. And then I can, this is long pieces. I've used all the short pieces, huh? Okay, so we're just cutting the duplicates now. This is where I'll store these to use later. 2, 4, 6, 7, and 8 right here. Same thing with the squares. They're going to be duplicates too. And then and so I'm not working with the same fabrics all the time. I just separate my duplicates and store them in my plastic container, which is just sitting right there, but normally it's sitting right here. So when I start running out of pieces, I then start going to my duplicate pile. So I'll cut them. I just want to make sure that I'm rotating my fabrics really good. Run this through. I'm die cutting the pineapple block from AccuQuilt, the die. It's number 55485. And I'm actually working on pineapple quilts behind me. I'm working on a second one. That was my first one. And I'm just cutting more pieces. And then for my little C section down here, I've just cut out a whole little section of C's without having to cut the G's down on the board. So if you really want to condense your fabric and not cut the G because you don't need it, I do that as well. And I'm not counting pieces because I'm going to be making a whole lot more quilts anyway. So I'm not even worried about how many of each piece I'm cutting. I just know I need a lot of them. My quilt, the pattern that I did, you need 3,700 pieces. I want to do a quilt with 100 blocks. So if it's 37 blocks in the quilt, I'm going to be cutting 37,000 pieces, okay? Sounds crazy. Oh gosh, 1. So I'm not even counting. I'm just making blocks. And I'll be through these pieces so fast. I've cut about, I'm just on this project, I have to cut lights too. So right now I'm just cutting darks because the last time I cut all of my light fabric. So this is probably my 5th sewing session and I've made about 40 blocks. I still have a lot of lights left though. So that's why I made sure I pressed mostly my dark fabrics here. And then I need to cut these. These are my last ones that go in the big pile. Get these out the way. And then make sure that you don't forget to rotate your mat too, so you're cutting on both sides. That's great. We got people talking about meeting. And Joan says, at Teaquilts, I'm so thankful for this. I do want to make your pineapple quilt. Well, thank you, ma'am. I hope you enjoy it. I love, well, I'm a glutton for punishment. You all know that I'm a true scrap quilter, meaning that I cut stuff strictly from the scraps. And I tend to, like, you know, cutting from scraps does take a lot longer, as we all know. So, you know, you got to be strong to make some of these quilts when you need this many pieces, you know. So I don't even count the pieces. I just sew. And then I look up, like, I was surprised over the weekend when I had finally made it to my 40 mark, because I was only sewing with you guys. And then I said, girl, you need to sit down and do some sewing if you ever going to get this quilt finished. So then I made 12 blocks, which I was really happy about. Really happy to see those 11 blocks. So, but I'm having fun with pineapples right now. It's like, I don't know, it's so many things that you can do with them based on value of the fabric that you're using that makes them so interesting. So every one that I do, I'm trying to make it differently. So when I do a lecture on it, I'll have some different designs. And I might even piece some pineapple blocks, not this kind, like the actual pictorial pineapple. I'll do some of that as well. Just want to put something in between. 4, 5. You know how sometimes when you're quilting, if you have the same fabric touch and you end up sewing 2 pieces of fabric together and you weren't intending to? I'm trying to avoid that. Oh, I got these half square triangle things. I'm just going to lay them on this board. I'm going to use one of the smaller ones to cover the half square triangle section. And then long as everything else covers it, we're ready to go. This is a small one, I can't see. But I try to use everything that I could possibly use scrap-wise in these quilts. Is Tiffany still here? Saw somebody asking Tiffany something. Yeah, she's here. She says yes, but only above 88-degree water. Anything less hurts me. Wow. That's pretty high. Linda says, I'm a scrap quilter too. I made Bonnie Hunter's Perkyman, and it's 10,000 1.5-inch squares. Yes, you've got to be strong to make some scrap quilts. You can't, everything is not quick and fast. You know, some things you got to work for. And if you're giving it away, you need to know who you're giving that quilt to, because you don't just give every quilt to anybody. You know, you got to make sure that they understand what quilting is. What time is it? 10:49. I was trying to get the my main pieces cut. Look like I'm going to make it. I'm actually cutting my duplicates, which I just put in the pile, but that's okay. They're at least on top. Whoops! I just lost the pile. I think these were all my duplicates. But yep. I can cut all kinds of stuff that I would normally like toss to the side because I didn't want to be bothered with that right now. 2. 7. And this one is 8. I got some little thinner ones I'm going to have to place precisely. All of these are duplicates, really. Well, not those. Hold on. I see Eric saying yes to let's get in some trouble. Linda says, it's beautiful. It's a beauty. I'll get a picture on Teaquilts group. Thank you. I would love to see it. I had started on a postage stamp quilt where I was using 25 1.5 inch squares, 1 inch finish. I probably have about 40, maybe 40 or so blocks. I need to pull that project out and see what I can do with it. In Easy Quilt magazine, that was a quilt you make 9 patches and then a house block. Most of it's 2.5 inch blocks, and then subcut into 4.5 inch, and then 2.5 inch by 6.5 inch. You use a 2.5 inch block and mark it. Have to see it. Put a picture up for us so we can see it, or give us a reference, June and Teaquilts. Bye, Susan. I should probably missed her by now. We only got a few more minutes to be on here. Stamps. She says, I just can't. She says, hi. This is from Chocolate Treats. Hi, welcome to the chat. I'm almost finished cutting, even though I stopped read comments. And I got a gazillion pieces over here. I'm happy about that. Whoops, I'm putting my pieces in the wrong place now, my scraps. I want to cut some of these little small ones. I have to place them precisely. And then once I place those, I can put the other pieces, some other big ones on top. These are other small ones. Those are big. So 1. 3, 4, 1. Okay. So we don't have this whole board filled. I'm gonna slide this mat down. Hopefully I got enough room here to get it in. Just barely. Gramp says, I'm learning a lot about cutting. Thanks so very much. You're the best. You're welcome. Chocolate Tree says, I love to start traditional and then go completely different in my quilting. That's good too. And you know, modern quilting, you know, some people, like if they were making a pineapple quilt, might only have like 2 or 3 actual pineapple sections where you can see it, and then they modernize it by a lot of white space. So you can do so many different things with the pineapple, or any pattern, any quilt pattern. But I'm just happening to be working with the pineapple right now. So that's what I'm doing. And then I might end up staying up a little bit to sew some of this stuff now that I'm motivated by getting it started. I think I'm just going to start a second pile because my stacks are pretty high. I have been a cutting fool. And I'm going to split up these onto different sides. 3. So I'll cut different sections. Are these long or short? These are long. Now when I cut the middle section, because I'm cutting both sides, I'm just splitting them up and putting them on both sides. So like this. I'm just stacking 2 different sides onto here. And then when I do that, because I don't have anything else on here, I'm just going to use my small mat. And Quilt Gal says that her favorites are 30s fabrics. I actually have a quilt that I started using 30s fabrics. It was baskets. I haven't finished it. I got so many works in progress, it's ridiculous though. And somebody asked, do I work on more than one project at a time? I'm the queen of UFOs, girl. Lots and lots of them. Oops, I want to start a duplicate pile just because I got too many pieces now. It's never going to be enough to finish, but it's just too many pieces that I can put on my board back there. They're flipping over. So we're going to go back to the duplicates for my big section. And I'm going to go ahead and finish this. I don't have too many more stacks back there. I got 2 stacks back there and then what I have up here. So I don't have a whole lot left. And the 2 stacks back there are what I cut extra C's out of. So I don't know. I probably got about 9 or 10 pieces of fabric on this board. Let's see. I'm just going to cut that one section. You hearing moaning? I think that was more than 8. Let's see how it cut. Just beautifully. C, B, C, D, E. These are the extras over there. Okay, either 1 or 2 stacks, depending on how many. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I got 2 more for 9, 10. Let's do it. It's gonna moan. It will moan, but it'll get over it. Turn this, pull it up, all 10 of those pieces cut, no problem, nothing stuck. Oops, I'm supposed to be putting duplicates over here. See? Okay. Got a few more pieces I need to cut that are long but skinny. 2, 4, that. I hear thunder outside. We're getting more rain again, I take it. Okay. Run this through. And then all I have to cut is extra C's. And that's it. I've cut a lot of fabric. C, E, and F. Okay, just these pieces here for the C's. It's 11:01. Let's see if I got any. How many UFO do you have? Me, probably 4, or more like 4 zillion. I have about, I keep a list because I keep track of my projects. Let's see, I'm probably, for this year, finished things, probably, I don't know, about at least 30, 40, and then I also track longworm quilting for other people. UFOs, I probably have about 125 or so because I've been working on getting a lot of them done. So I'm going to say somewhere in that neighborhood, about 125. And part of that is because I teach workshops. Hold on, I got to sneeze. Excuse me. Part of that is because I teach workshops. And so as soon as I complete a project from a workshop, get it done, it can be 3 years. And then somebody will ask me to teach that class again. And then I have to go back and make samples. So I'm a person, I like to have examples. So I'll start a whole new project just to have the examples. And then I always do them different. So when I do make it, it's a different look to it. So it's never the same. It's the same quilt, but I do something different to it every time. So I have a lot. And then some of it is just that I'm a technique junkie. You know, they come out with a new ruler or something like that, new way of doing something, then I would jump on that. I can't tell you how many stacking wax I have because at one point I was so happy to I like stacking wax so well that all I wanted to do was cut and sew the blocks, and then I didn't put the quilt tops together. So I got a lot of UFOs. I'm just trying to get through my stack of C pieces here. And these are not all necessarily duplicates, but it doesn't matter. I'll get to them when I get to them. These are those little pieces of fabric where I was trimming off the bigger pieces and, you know, had these little ones left. So I can just cut some C's. I need a lot of C's because it's on the side of the board where I'm not cutting that much. Just trying to mix it up now, so I know I'm not sewing 2 pieces of fabric. See, I need just another 3 inches or so over here. I guess I could move it further down here, but I wanted to make sure I had room to take it out once it exits and that you all could see. So this thing is listening to me talk and it's trying to do commands. It doesn't know what to do. It's like, what is she talking about? 2, 3, 4, 7 and 8. Well, let's do 9. It's stuck together. It must want to go. I'm going to pull this back a little bit because I was running out of space. And Eric's asking me, did you ever crack open the Grace Company ruler and rotary cutter? Nope. I haven't done that. It's still sitting there in the package. Never did an unboxing or whatever you want to call it for that. I've never used it because I'm using my other rulers actually. But I guess I do need to see if I like it. I just haven't. But I should. Just run this through. Do you like the ruler system, Eric? Wonder if he opened. Almost finished. This is all I have left to cut. One more pass after this one. Well, that's a lie. Well, it is sort of kind of. I got other stuff here that I have pressed that I have not cut down. This was laying on my sewing machine. This stuff here has not been cut down. And I was just thinking I was going to put it on the board, so I'll do that later. And when I get through, I'm probably going to have about 4 to 5, maybe even 600 different fabrics in this quilt because I'm using true scraps. So I'll have a lot of different fabrics. And I'm using them a lot. It's not like I'm only using a fabric one time, but when you need like 37,000 pieces of fabric, yeah. You need a lot, you know. You need a lot of fabric, so I'm just going to have a lot of variety. I wanted to make sure I wasn't cutting more than 10. This is going to be 9. We're going to just put this on here. And this will be our last cut here. I actually cut the entire stack of stuff that I had approximately cut to use. And I'm just going to put this stuff on there. I'm not even going to cut this stuff down because it's just true scraps. It is stuff that it could have been in a string container or a strip. So I'm just going to put it on there. I might cut off the excess on the length. That's why I have these scissors. But other than that, I won't be doing anything like with a rotary cutter to cut. I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to just put this up here. I'll probably go ahead and cut this while I got this sitting here. I may not do any sewing. I just might go ahead and finish cutting this and just get some extra pieces out. And Tiffany is saying, I'm glad I got the long arm before I got any other quilting things. Yeah, because quilting's expensive. So if you got one of the most expensive things up front, then that's a good thing. I had all the other stuff and then trying to figure out how to make the long arm work. Hi, Rose Wall. She says, hi from Indiana. Been ages since I've been here. Welcome. I can't afford much because I have to have a long arm. The rotary cutter is great. I don't like the ruler, though. Oh, okay. So he says he likes the rotary cutter on that system. And I haven't done it, but it was seeming like you had to have that rotary cutter with the ruler, but it all came in a package as a grouping. So I'm interested in seeing if it's gonna work. I do need to do a review on that thing. I've had it now since 2018, I think. Didn't do it in all this time. So I do need to do that. Maybe I'll do it in November of 2020 since we're not going to be going to the quilt show, huh, Eric? um, Chocolate Treats asking the Grace Company ruler is which type? I don't know the name of anything else. I don't know because I haven't done a review. It's been sitting in my, it's actually in my face, so I see it all the time. It's by my long arm, by my cutting area, because that's where I cut. So I see it. It's not like it's put up. I'm just ignoring it. When you buy the die cutting machine, do any dies come with it? They give you, I don't know with all machines, but they give you some type of die. With the Go machine, they give you what they call a value die that cuts 2.5-inch squares, 2-inch finished half square triangles, and I think it's a 4.5-inch square. It's all on one die though. And sometimes they'll run deals where when you buy a machine, they'll have a certain particular thing going with it. So sometimes you might get more, other times you get less. It depends on what machine you're getting and what they put with it. Eric says, oh, that was Eric asking me about that. Mary's laughing at me, talking about Tia is so funny. She gets so tickled. Love it. Tiffany's Quilting Life said, this is neat, T. Definitely on my wish list in the future. And it's a big investment to get any type of die cutting system, even if it's for paper crafting, because then you've got to buy all the different shapes and things that you want to cut from it. So my thing is you buy a system and then you find a friend that you can like buy dies, like you buy dies that your friend don't have, and then you kind of go back and forth with each other, borrowing dies, because if it's not your basic dies, like there's no way you can not have your own 2.5-inch strip die. We cut our binding from that. You can also cut 2.5-inch squares from that. You can cut 2.5-inch diamonds, 60 degree, 45 degree, 30 degree, depending on whatever you want. So there are certain dies you don't want to share, but like a pineapple die, I share that. I share that with people in my guild. If any of my friends want to use it, Kevin and I, we swap dies. So I have more than Kevin. Kevin has a lot, but he was surprised at how much I have. So he tends to more borrow from me. But also, I do YouTube videos. And so, and then I'm also an affiliate with AccuQuilt. So the way that I get more dies is if you all use my link, then I'll go get more dies, and then I'm able to come in and do more product reviews or show you what they got, show you what it looks like, show you how it cuts. And so then I use that money to fork back into the business. I'm not trying to pocket that money per se. So I'm trying to figure out which one of these sales I want to buy, because I want that Cleopatra die. And that's going to be coming up where you spend so much money and then they'll give you that die for free. So that might be when I spend the money that I got previously from you all using my affiliate link. So I try to buy stuff back so that I can show you all what they have, instead of you all spending your money trying to figure out if it's worth it. Then I try to sew a block to see if it's easy to sew as well. So that's how I'm able to do some of my AccuQuilt videos for you all. I put some of the money right back into the actual system. Do you put some on the back? Do you put some on the back before you applique it down? I don't think she's talking to me. That's June Hansen. If it is, I don't know. And somebody is saying, tell them about the cutter. AccuQuilt Go is one of the biggest fabric die cutting companies. Their sister company they also own, which is AccuQuilt. It's the same company. AccuQuilt was created long time ago to help with teachers. They used it for cutting out the stuff that they give the kids in class when they were coming home with little apples and stuff like that, or stars that the teacher gave them for behaving. That stuff was cut on a system. It's called the AccuQuilt. That company is still out there. The Studio 2 and the AccuQuilt, they call it the Grand something. I forgot what it's called. It's the exact same machine. Okay? But what happened was quilters started buying from AccuQuilt. And the problem with AccuQuilt is that it didn't take into account the quilter's quarter-inch seam. So if you were just buying squares, then yes, things would work. But if you were buying half-square triangles or parallelograms, things were not matching up. So that's where AccuQuilt split the company and started marketing toward the quilter. So that way they had the paper side, and then they also had the fabric side. So when you go to AccuQuilt, they've accounted for all of our quarter-inch seaming into the cuts, and then they also blunt cut the ends so that, like your half-square triangles, you don't have to cut the dog ears off. So that's how come that company was formed. What I'm cutting on is AccuQuilt. The actual fabric side has two types of systems per se. One side is the go side. The other side is the studio side. I also have a studio cutter. It's in another room. This is on the go side. The go side will cut 6 layers of fabric. The studio will cut 10 layers of fabric. But as you all just saw, on certain dies, I've been able to cut 10 fabrics. Now, when I'm cutting like multiple 2.5-inch squares, I cannot cut 10 fabrics. I'm going to tell you. Not all of the dies will allow you to do that. This pineapples allow me to do it because of how the die blades are inside of the actual die board. And so that they're not crossing over each other. So therefore, it's allowing me to cut that many. If I had put this many fabric on a regular go board, I would be cutting with scissors. A whole lot, okay? So only this one is allowing me to put more than what I should. Now, that is not recommended by AccuQuilt, okay? So don't do it. They tell you put 6 layers. AccuQuilt on this go side has 4 different machines. One is a Go Me. It's really small. I don't even know what size it is. I don't have it, and I have no intentions of getting it. They also have a Go Baby. I think the Go Baby is 6 inches wide. You can take die boards that are up to 6 inches wide. The Go, which is their main machine, takes die boards up to 8 inches wide. And then this is the Go Big Electric, and it can take die boards up to, I think they say 14 inches wide. So this one is electric, meaning that you don't have to use a hand crank. All of the other AccuQuilt products, you hand crank. So this one, let me just slide it over a little bit because somebody's asking. I'm not promoting AccuQuilt, but if you do go buy it, use my link in the description box. Okay? But this one is the Go Electric. I've cut it off. I want to make sure I had cut it off. But it folds up like this, and then you can sit it up, and then you can carry it by this built-in handle. That's the one that I have. I have used the regular Go, but I've sold it, and I actually purchased the Studio when I bought it, and then I've since purchased this one as well. And it opens out to this flat area. I'm just trying to pull it in so you can see the whole thing. So this is what it looks like opened up. And then you put your dies in under this roller here. The pressure with that, the die board, your fabric, and the mat will cause it to cut. And since this one's electric, you don't have to have a hand crank wheel here. So yeah, that's it. It doesn't have a reverse button. It just has an on and off button. So if it ever gets stuck or something, I'm not sure what you would do because there is no reverse button. I think electronic machines should have a reverse button. I do think that. But I actually like this. I thought when I bought it, I was only going to use it when I'm teaching because I do teach some die cutting stuff too. And then sometimes I'll take my machines and I'll take some common boards in, and I just let people just during that class time, they can cut whatever they want to cut on my machines. Since they pay for class, I just, you know, incorporate that cost into them using my product, because I have to buy new mats or keep buying supplies in order for me to use the machine. So your mats or your disposable part, your die boards last forever. I've been using die cutting system for 10, 15 years or more. I can't remember when I got the first one. It's been so long ago. But I never had to rebuy a die. Every die that I have will cut. It doesn't go bad. It's just the mats themselves or your disposable product. So that's what I am using here. There are other companies coming out with fabric die cutting, like the Gemini. I have a Gemini die cutting machine, and they're coming out with what they're calling multi-purpose dies that can cut. I saw on the screen where they cut 6 layers of fabric with a very thin lit die. It was just a little bit thicker than what you use when you're using for paper cutting. So it's getting pretty interesting. Sizzix also sells steel rule dies that you can cut fabric with as well. So it's not just AccuQuilt. I think AccuQuilt has a better choice on what it is that you can buy as far as selection. Not that any one is better than the other. So I do recommend, if I had to recommend one, I would say that I would still recommend the AccuQuilt, just because of the different numbers of dies that you can purchase. I still would recommend them though. He says, I like my hand crank AccuQuilt. I'm actually dancing and cranking. Yeah, with your broken handle that you broke. That is too funny. Sheila says, it's $200 off right now. It was $5.95. Now, because at one point, it was only $150 off. So I do recommend that you wait until they at least put it at $200 off. And then they give you something with it, because they don't want to send you a machine and not give you a die to use. So they'll give you a die with that, some kind of die. Sometimes they'll give you a whole cube and give you the mats and everything that goes with it. So they're going to give you at least one die so that you can cut something with it, because there's nothing worse than spending $600 for something and then you can't cut a darn thing, okay? So $200 off on the Go Big is good, because they have reduced it to $150, and I try to wait for them to put it on at least $200 off, not $150. See, I'm going backwards, so it looks like my brother is in here. And they say right now the studio is $3.95, and the studio, I'm gonna tell you, they do not make all of the Go dies on the studio, but any Go die will work on the studio if you buy an adapter. So I got the short adapter, so if I'm using short dies, and then I also got the one that works with the strip dies. So I got both adapters. Now I could use the long adapter every time, but sometimes I might want to use my smaller tray, so I'm not doing as much rolling when I'm using my studio. So I do have both of the AccuQuilt Go adapter plates that go on my studio. So I do like the studio. Actually, I love the studio because I love their die boards better. And it cranks. It's a hand crank, but it's different than the Go crank. It's totally different feel to it. I have very little resistance when I'm rolling through on that machine. So yeah, but my brother is here. He says, thank you for my bonnet and soap, Vivian Calvi. He's thanking Vivian. That's really sweet. And I don't know if Vivian is in here because I haven't seen her name, but I'll make sure we tell her the next time she pops in. Sheila's over there checking their website. trying to make sure I answered everybody's question. June Hansen says, I'm sure glad I bought mine when I did. I got 4 dies with my Go, but they don't do that anymore. I think when it first came out, that's how they sold it. When I first got the die, when they first came out, they just had that one value die, and then they done it like that for years, and then they started doing different type of packages with it and stuff. Trying to make sure I got this off. I thought I heard something over here. It sounded like a bee or something. I'm like, I'm gonna have to get out of here. That's too funny. Sheila says, T, I'm looking at the studio, but I see what comes with it. I don't remember if anything actually came with my studio unless you buy the starter set. If I'm not mistaken, when I bought my studio die cutter, it just came, I'm almost thinking by itself. And then I got it because I was cutting a lot of strips, and then because I do string piecing, and they have a custom die that I wanted to buy that hardly anybody knows about. But they've since started coming out with it on other systems where they had multiple size strips you can cut on one die. So I bought a lot of that kind of stuff. And Tiffany is saying, if you ever try long arming, you'll never go back to quilting on your domestic. I second that. I have not even, I remember somebody asked me to do a workshop or a little live thing where I was showing you all how to machine quilt on your sewing machine, and I hated the whole process because I'm like, I don't do this anymore. I'm over this. Rose says, T, do you always do the straight of grain like they recommend? It just depends. Since I use sizing on my fabric, and if it's a scrap, then I don't worry about the straight of grain. But most of the times I am squaring up and making sure that my fabric is square when I'm cutting my approximate pieces, because I got to square it up anyway. So yeah, I may not cut all 4 sides, but I try to get at least 2 sides so I can line up on those lines that I put onto my die board, you know, when I'm telling you where to place your fabric. So I try to cut at least 2 straight lines. Then I might have 2 lines that's not straight. Shut up, Eric, to my buzzing. But I usually do. What I don't worry about is whether my the lengthwise grain goes in parallel to the bar all the time, because I may not be able to cut my piece that way if I'm cutting from scraps. Now, if I'm cutting from yardage, then yes, it's easy for me to do that. A lot of people cut straight from yardage. I just happen to be a scrap quilter, so quilting for me and cutting is a lot more complicated and cumbersome no matter which way I cut, because I'm making it from true scraps instead of just pulling, say, 5 dark fabrics and 5 light fabrics and just cutting my whole quilt from that. I found a long time ago that for me to sew those blocks, I'm a person that loves gadgets, techniques, and I get bored if I'm sewing the exact same pieces in the same fabric colorations over and over and over. I get so bored, so I'm not really interested in that project anymore. So for me, the more fabrics I can put in, the happier I am. But it also means that it's a lot more work for me. Kelly says, the fact that the blades never go dull always makes me wonder why rotary blades can't be made the same way. And that's a good analogy. And that's like the way that their mats are made for the Go. I wonder how come Big Shot and Gemini and all these other companies won't make their mats like that. I think they make them, they got bad mats so that they can keep getting disposable money from you through sales. Because if Go can give you the mats that last as long as they do, I think they last very long. These other companies should be able to get you mats that last longer than a month or 2. So I've had some of my Go mats for years. It just depends on what you're cutting and how you're cutting. If you're not rotating your mats, or if you're not storing them really well, they can, you know, get warped and stuff like that. But they'll still cut. And Kelly says, I think it likely is possible, but if rotary blades never dull, the companies wouldn't make money from us having to continue buying them, and that's exactly what I was saying. And then I had bought at one of the quilt shows, probably in 2018, I had bought OFA's, supposedly, I don't know if they call them titanium because I don't have the box in here, but it was like, I bought 3 rotary blades for some ungodly amount of money, and these blades were supposed to last longer than the general rotary blade. And I'm here to tell you that it don't. I put it into my Orteza rotary cutter, and I also put it in an OFA rotary cutter, and now I need to change my OFA blade. And I don't do that much rotary mat cutting. I do trimming up, I square up my quilts with it, and then you know, the pieces that I don't have a die for is what I cut. So I don't cut a whole lot with my rotary cutters for that blade to be bad. And so I'm not sold on those blades being better. And these were 60 millimeter blades as well. So I spent quite a bit of money on them. So I agree with you, Kelly, on that. Sheila says, I think I'm going to buy the studio. I got additional 10% off. That's pretty cool. Rose saying, sorry for mistakes typing on phone. We have all been there. We go through that every day. This phone wants to correct everything we put out. June says, I bought mine from Nancy's Notion, so it just might have been just her that did that. That could be too, because one thing about AccuQuilt that kind of harms the people that sell the products, like your quilt shops, AccuQuilt would not let them put anything on a sale more than what they have on a sale. So if AccuQuilt say that dies can be 20% off, they can't put dies at 25% off or half off unless they have decided that they're getting out of the AccuQuilt business, and then like where Joann's put stuff at 50% off trying to clear it out and stuff. AccuQuilt holds on tight to their pricing structure so that these other companies can't really give you great discounts. If you're getting great discounts on AccuQuilt, somebody is doing it without the authority of AccuQuilt. Okay? Because they can give you something. I guess they could give it to you free in a package if you're buying it as a group, because they're kind of giving it to you, but they're not giving it to you at 50% off. You know what I mean? AccuQuilt is, I think that AccuQuilt should just let their store sell. I really think that AccuQuilt should not sell their own product because they undercut the retail stores all the time. There's a lot of companies that you can't buy direct from because they tell you you need to go to these stores and buy it. The only reason I buy it from them is because, you know, if you're not going to allow like the stores to give me a great price, I'm going to wait till you put it on sale. And then, like, you know, you add these additional off codes, or you're going to give me this die for free. I don't have to pay tax. And most times I don't have to pay shipping. So if I buy it locally, I'm actually going to spend more money for it. So it doesn't make any sense. So I feel like AccuQuilt selling their own product and then advertising the sales and all of that, you kind of undercut me buying it in the store. I'm not going to buy it in the store because it's more costly for me to buy it in the store. Rose says, this is kind of how I plan to do at least some of the time. I have a lot of scraps. Yes, and this is where, you know, I can cut stuff on my system, and then I can always come into my room, and even if I don't have anything sewed, I can go pull one of the pre-cut bins, even if it's squares, strips, tumblers, chisels, half square triangles. I always got something that I can sew because I've got pre-cut pieces already laying around. Cheryl says, ON is really something. I went blurry in my left eye last week and was scared to death that I was having a relapse. I'll send prayers and hugs your way. A lot of you all seem to be having some medical conditions, so be praying for all of you all, hoping things work out in the positive for everybody. There's a lot of stuff going around, or a lot of things are going around, not necessarily something you catch, but just aging, you know, things happening. Cool Gal said we must be related. I just love gadgets. You know, I had to stop buying stuff, and then I haven't bought gadgets. I think it was like 2018 because I haven't even done the reviews on the last gadgets I bought. But like actual gadgets that were new. Like I bought a die or something like that, but I haven't bought a whole lot of like equipment per se. So looking forward to that. Wow, I can't believe you're still on. I had to go eat dinner, but I'm back now and I have to watch the replay. We just messing around. I stopped cutting, I'd say about 11:05, and I've just been kind of reading the chats because you all know I like to talk to you all too. So, and I'm not going to be able to stay on late tomorrow, so I'm trying to, I guess, get my chat in with you all tonight. So, and Joan says the studio is much heavier, right? Yes, it is. But you know, the Studio 2 has some wings. It has some wings, and it has rollers, and they're open, so you can fold it up. But you can also travel with the Studio 2. The Studio 1 was hard to travel with, so I was loving it when they came out with the Studio 2, where the arms fold up. But it is heavier. Do you cut paper with them too? I do have some dies that I can cut paper with them too, and it doesn't matter if you cut paper or fabric, it doesn't have any effect. Matter of fact, some of my dies, when I'm cutting, and I don't have that lengthwise grain going in on some of my half square triangle dies on the Go system, it actually matters. And so I will put a layer of paper on top, and it helps everything to go through and stay a little bit more stable because it's paper that doesn't stretch. So I do use paper on it as well. And I even made my pineapple, when I did the pineapple quilt pattern, I used cardstock and actually cut the pineapple templates out of cardstock so they'd be a little thicker than paper. So it does cut through paper very well. And you can cut through layers of paper, of course. You can cut through more paper than you can fabric. Kelly says you can never buy rotary blades through. You can buy rotary blades through Harbor Freight. I do know that Harbor Freight sells the 45 millimeter blades, but they do not sell the 60 millimeter blades. I always have to wait until Joann's put them at half off, or if I have a half off coupon, or if they have something where you can get additional off of sale, and they always have the blades like sometimes marked at 30% most of the time. And so if they have an additional sale that say you can get some more off of sale prices, then I'll get them at that point. But I tend to buy my 60 millimeters at Joann's when they have a sale. I have never seen Harbor Freight to have the 60 millimeter blades. Harbor Freight carries rotary blades for carpet and quilts. I think 2 blades for like $2. And I still think that's 45 millimeter, but correct me if I'm wrong. Pamela says, going to go. See you tomorrow night. Bye, Pamela. Let's see. Trying to go back up to make sure. Ellen says, hey, everybody, can y'all do the thumbs up? Thanks. Thank you, Ellen. We still got 108 people. We got some night owls in here. It is Saturday night. My sister, what's that, today or tomorrow? No, it's tomorrow. My niece is, my sister's turning 50. I turned 55. And my niece is having her party tomorrow. And she was asking me, was I coming? And I told her no. My niece is a true party little girl. She says it's not going to be that many people. But to her, not that many people is a lot of people. So I decided I wasn't going to go. I canceled my own birthday eat out because it started out with just 4 people. And then my mom asked about it. And I said, how did you know about it? She said, my sister told her. Well, this is another sister. She told her about it. My sister got 3 children, so that's going to be another 4 people, plus my mom. I'm thinking, okay, now we at 9. And then I'm like, and then my niece has a boyfriend, and I'm like, is he coming too? It got to be too many people, and I decided I wasn't having it, so I canceled it. I wasn't going. Now, I've been out with Kevin, but it's like me and Kevin, and that's it. I don't want to be sitting at a table with a lot of people going into a whole lot of different directions. I just don't want to do that right now. So, I think I've read everything. Tiffany says it's only 9:40 p.m. here in AZ. Haven't started the night owl thing yet. You got that right, girl. That's the reason why we here late, because of the west side. That you are absolutely correct. He said 100 people is not that many people. 100, it's no, I normally have like around 80 people, 80 to 100, I guess. So just to still have 100 at the end is pretty good, Eric. And Cool Gal, see, she's saying it's 12:45 in the east. You got that right, in Atlanta and all of that. Yep. So it is getting late. But I've gotten through the comments. I know I missed a whole lot of stuff, like while I was cutting earlier. And it won't even let me go back. It will only let me go back to 11. So I can't even see all the chat. But I know that you all had the chat really going earlier. So I'll probably sit here and cut the remaining pieces of fabric here, since I've got it pressed. And now I'm, since I moved it, I'm getting a little bit wrinkled up. But I'll just put this on here and use my scissors to cut, you know, the size on these longer pieces. And then I'll probably start with the short pieces just to get them all out the way. And then maybe I'll cut, I'll be able to sew tomorrow. I won't have to worry about that anymore, cutting. And I've got, in this container, I had to move my black thing that sits up here over. So I've got like some of my lights, extra lights in here. These are my duplicates from when I cut the first stacks over there. So I still got plenty of those. But then the next time I cut, I'll be cutting, you know, more light pieces of fabric. So I'm always looking to see what I'm running out of. And then that's when I start going through my bags that are laying out because they haven't been put up. Working on other projects or finishing other projects. Then I start looking for the next fabrics that I want to cut. So I got plenty, and I get to find a spot to start putting these pieces. I wonder, why are you over here? Oh, that's a different size. I cut that out of a different size. This is my black fabric. I don't know why I accidentally cut that out of a different size, I guess. But I got pieces in here that I need to put up. These are all extra pieces that I'm not using on this project. Okay, since I've been cutting. So I haven't cut that many extra pieces. Let me get them all out so I can show you. So these are all the extra pieces that don't work with this project. Just these pieces. Like some of them, I felt like the fabrics might have been too light, that when I put them onto the color side, they didn't have enough color, or they had black in them. Like they got into the stack accidentally. So yeah. But I'm enjoying this process. Like I had cut these browns, beiges out, and then I felt like they were a little bit too dark to be in my light spots, so I decided not to use them. But you know, it's trial and error. Pick and choose what I like as I'm sewing. But that's about it. So don't want my fabrics to get wrinkled up. And so I'm gonna sit my little self here, and I'm gonna continue to cut since I'm already since I already got it set up. And I don't know how much more I'm gonna do tonight. I smell my husband made him a burger. So I don't know. I might be up a while. I might make something else. For those that ordered the wood presses and stuff like that, the wood items, they definitely will be in next week. So those will be going out in the mail once I get the order. I'll make sure I do an inventory check to make sure I got everything I ordered, and then I'll start sending stuff out. That order is ridiculous. I got so many items on that order. I know I probably have like 40 orders that I gotta mail out. That doesn't include the people in St. Louis who's going to pick theirs up. So it's going to be a big to do. I had 38 items and 30 orders last time. So this order is really big. I'm just guessing right now and saying like over 125, 130 pieces. I'm just guessing what the number is. With over 52 to 55 different orders. So you all really like the wood products. So they will most definitely be in. I've talked to him yesterday and he said that they'll definitely be ready. So that's what's going on with that. Eric is saying he probably got a huge backstock since no quilting shows were going to. He didn't have that stuff made. He made that stuff because in the middle of the week, I sent him a list where I had 67 items because that was almost doubled what I ordered before. I ordered 38 items before. So I was getting kind of nervous that my order was almost doubling. And so I let him know ahead of time, but I think he enjoyed it because it actually got him back out into the workshop because he hadn't been making anything because he knew that the quilt shows were canceled. So he's actually been enjoying this and he kept sending me emails talking about, if you sell it, I'll make it. And I'm like, whatever. Because I was surprised at how many people, and there's still people that missed the order, still wanting stuff, people wanting to wait until October. So I told him I'll do another order in October. So hopefully people will, you know, if you want to buy something for Christmas. I doubt that I would do anything in November or December because I'm going to be busy doing my own stuff. Most of my quilting increases in that time, although I've been busy with quilting the entire year this time. But my quilting normally increases in November for people getting stuff for Christmas gifts ready. So I don't want to do any orders in November and December. So so he's actually been making stuff, and he's been happy to be in the shop. So so we've done an extra 47 minutes tonight. So I'm taking it. We can go now. And Cheryl's saying good night, everyone. Hope everyone has a wonderful Sunday. Good night. And I'm thinking, I see Quilting for the Soul must have said good night as well. So good night to you as well. Chocolate Treat is asking me, do you contact guilds to increase your viewership? No, I do not. My viewership is increased by you all sharing the videos with your quilting friends, of somebody doing a search on a particular quilt block or topic, and then they fall into my YouTube channel. Sometimes when people go live, if you are a quilter and you're looking at another video, it might tell you that some other quilters are live, so YouTube prompts also help with that. But basically that's how my channel grows. My channel does grow when I go to quilt guilds and I do lectures and or workshops, but I have not done any of that. I also get people joining me through Facebook, and then I'll try to remind them every once in a while in my Facebook group that if you don't know about my YouTube channel, please go over and subscribe to it. So that's kind of how my YouTube channel works. But I don't just contact guilds and say, can you send them to my YouTube channel? Good night, Teresa. I've missed a lot of people leaving. I'm sure they're already gone. And Tiffany said, just make scrappy pineapple when done with all of those. Yeah, I'm just going to make some. I got a video on making a pineapple block. You all can look that up. It's a pictorial pineapple block. And I'm planning to make that as well. And then I don't have an applique pineapple, I don't think, in any of my die cutting systems, even the paper, I don't think. But I might want to do some applique pineapples as well. I probably just do fusible web on that. I'm not sure. But I'm going to have to see if I can find a pattern for that. Be it a paper pattern or whatever, because it doesn't matter when you're just doing applique. But I don't think I have any applique dye for pineapple that's coming to mind. But I'm planning on, I'm making a whole lecture around pineapples, okay? And then, yeah, so it ain't no telling what I'll end up coming up with when I get through, but stay tuned. I am going to do another piece pineapple, and it's going to be a little bit different too, but I want to do the one that I have the block on my website for. I think I want to do that one next, just to get a break from the AccuQuilt once I get these so-called 100 blocks or 80 blocks done that I want to get done. Again, I have 40 of them already made, and I want to make at least 40 to 60 more. So this is the block I want to make more of. And then when I put these together, these haven't been pressed yet with a heated iron. They've been pressed with my wooden iron. But I have a stack of them back here now. Uh-oh. Is it underneath? Yeah, that's underneath my board. And we're not moving the board because those pieces are going to go crazy. So, but yeah. What time is Zoom tomorrow? Again, Eric is scheduling this, so this is West Coast time, so it's going to be 9 p.m. Central time, 10 o'clock Eastern time, sadly. And I'm only going to be in the room for a couple hours now. Last week on Sunday, we did a Facebook Live. And we started at 9 p.m. Central Time, and we went all the way until like 3:30 a.m. on Sunday morning. I can't do that. I mean on Monday morning, because I got to do a road trip on Monday, so I got to get some sleep. So, but yeah, I'm hoping that I'm not in that room that long. Okay. And I'm going to probably just be sewing the pineapple blocks that I'm working on. Maybe I won't sew tomorrow. I'll keep cutting. I still got this stack here that I haven't even trimmed. I just pressed this before I came in here. More scraps. And this will let you see what I'm actually cutting my pieces from. See, I'm using true scraps. Stuff that I've had from other stuff. They all kind of haphazard pieces. And this is what I'm actually cutting my pineapple pieces from. It didn't get put back into the scrap drawer. It's not in the strip bin or the, like some of them might be in my crumb pieces or my strip pieces. And I went in there and got some of that out too. Because I'm like, I can just use this stuff and get rid of it. Because I can only make so many string quilts. I got a gazillion of strings. And so I'm just cutting this stuff up, and that's how I started making those crumb bags that I was giving you all, strings and crumbs. I'm just cutting pieces. So I'm just going to lay this stuff on this die board, stuff that would never get used, just laying in there in a bag or in a container, gathering dust. I'm just going to put on this die board and cut me a piece or two out of each one of those pieces. So remember that tomorrow is not on Facebook. It is on Zoom. If you don't know how to utilize Zoom, you can go to the Facebook post that Eric put in the Facebook group. He's telling you how to get an account. I think I have it on my phone, so I guess I'm going to be watching on my phone tomorrow. So I'm going to have to probably have my iPad to type in or something. I don't know. I'm going to have a little bitty screen. I guess I better figure out on my iPad how to get the Zoom app on there before tomorrow. But that's where you're going to get all the information. And he has the link for the actual Zoom meeting. And it won't start until Eric opens it up. What is Triana doing? Talking about Triana Choice video. What you talking about, Tiffany? I missed something again. Oh, she's making, Triana Choice video. That's what she's making on Sunday. Okay. So she's gonna, so Tiffany's gonna be on tomorrow at 5 p.m. I guess that's what she's saying. But 5 p.m. her time, because that's last time I was trying to find Tiffany at 5 p.m. my time, forgetting about the time difference. That is too funny. Carrie Care says, I'm stopping in saying hello. It's late, so we'll watch the chat session later. Good night. See you later. We're about to end anyway. You're not going to miss anything. So, more. So, Tiffany, what time do you start tomorrow? You say 5 p.m. your time, which means, it's 7 p.m. my time. I was just in there last time too early, and then I fell asleep. And then when I woke up, I had so many emails about people wanting to buy wooden presses and stuff. I had to fix all of that before I could hop into Tiffany's live chat. And Tiffany says, I told her she has to stay and help. That's nice. That's nice. She's choosing tomorrow's project. So that's pretty cool. I think it's 8 p.m. your time, T. Okay. That's Teresa helping me out. Okay. Because, girl, I get confused with times. Yeah, she says, I think it would be 7. Okay, because I think it's 7 because right now it's 11:56. And I think it is 9:56 where Tiffany is right now. So she's on Mountain Standard. Okay. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and end here. I'm going to try to meet in Tiffany's room before we go into the Zoom session. Hopefully nothing major goes on over here. Saw another thing coming through. Oh, same as you. Okay. But I think it's 7 p.m. that we watch Tiffany, Mary. If you're watching Tiffany, it's 7 p.m. if you're in my time zone. And Tiffany's saying something about, okay, you think 2 hours. So yours 2 hours ahead of us. Yes. Okay. So, yeah. So we're going to go ahead and end here, guys. Thank you all so much for being here, for staying the extra time. Appreciate it. I got to at least chat with some of you all in the chat because I do miss that with me having to do a demo. And I knew some people were just coming in just to know how to utilize that AccuQuilt pineapple die board. So I wanted to make sure that I got that information out early. So Judy says, good night. Thanks, T, for a great show on AccuQuilt. Thank you as well for watching. So we're going to go ahead and end here. Hopefully I'll see you all, some of you all in Tiffany's meeting tomorrow. See you all in some of the Zoom that Eric set up for Teaquilts for tomorrow. And it is sewing or whatever. So your picture will be shown. You need to know in Zoom that people will see you. So if you got your bonnet on, we don't care. Just come on in because it is late for some parts of the country. We don't want you to be dressed like you're about to go out to a party or something, but just come on in, have fun with us. We're going to just be sitting and sewing and chatting. And Eric's going to be controlling that Zoom so I don't have to worry about how to run it and what's going on, okay? So I will see you all in the next video. It's thundering outside again. I'm so sick of rain. But see you all next Wednesday at our regular live chat session, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, okay? Good night, everybody. And see you soon. Bye. I see some more comments coming up. I'll see them on my phone later. But bye, everybody.